Welcome to this explainer. Today we're looking at something literally every professional, especially those of you tackling advanced performance management, is going to run into eventually. We're talking about the evolution from those rigid, often broken traditional management systems to dynamic, modern solutions. If you've ever felt like your company's budgets or performance metrics were actually working against your strategy, well, you're in the right place. We're going to unpack exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how modern APM techniques actually fix it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with human behavior and budgets, then look at moving beyond traditional budgets. From there, we'll cover the power of big data, finding true customer profitability, the cost of quality, and finally, tracking projects with EVM.
Section 1. Human Behavior and Budgets.
So why do perfectly calculated budgets fail in the real world? It's a great question, right? Because on paper, a budget is this mathematically perfect roadmap. But in practice, well, you drop human beings into the mix. Humans who are motivated by bonuses, afraid of budget cuts, and stressing over performance reviews. And suddenly, that introduces our biggest APM variable, dysfunctional behavior.
When traditional budgets are just too rigid, they tend to breed four specific dysfunctional behaviors. First up is gaming. This is managers playing with time, accelerating sales or delaying expenses just to hit that year-end bonus. Then there's smoothing, where earnings are kind of massaged to avoid looking volatile. We also see short-termism, which is an absolute value destroyer. This is where managers slash crucial long-term investments like R&D or training just to boost this quarter's profit. And finally, budgetary slack. Basically padding, intentionally overestimating costs so targets are a total breeze to hit. The reality is, humans are always going to manipulate rigid rules to protect themselves.
Now, we generally try to set budgets in one of two ways to avoid this stuff, but honestly, both have traps. Participative or bottom-up budgeting is fantastic for morale because the managers actually own the numbers. But the downside? It creates the absolute perfect breeding ground for that budgetary slack we just talked about. On the flip side, imposed or top-down budgeting is super quick and aligns perfectly with corporate strategy. But it can be incredibly demotivating and completely unrealistic for the people who actually have to do the work.
So if we're putting on our strategic advisor hats, here is your one-line anchor to remember. Dysfunctional behavior equals gaming, short-termism, and slack. The solution isn't to enforce stricter financial rules, but rather to mitigate these human behaviors using balanced, non-financial measures.
Section 2. Moving beyond traditional budgets.
Okay, look at this idea. Abandon traditional fixed annual budgets. This represents a massive paradigm shift. It's the beyond budgeting concept. Think about it. Business changes in weeks, not years, right? So instead of trapping managers in these rigid 12-month contracts that just encourage them to hoard resources, we abandon the fixed annual budget entirely. Instead, we replace it with rolling forecasts and adaptive key performance indicators, allocating our resources based on actual real-time needs.
To summarize this shift, beyond budgeting means exactly that. No fixed annual budget. You rely on rolling forecasts, adaptive KPIs, and a highly mature management culture. When you actually pull this off, you drastically reduce all that political behavior and really encourage continuous, sustainable improvement.
Section 3. The power of big data.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we mean when we talk about big data, which is defined by the 4 V's. First is volume. We're processing absolutely massive amounts of data. Then velocity, the fast, real-time generation of all this info. Variety means pulling from structured databases, sure, but also unstructured sources like text or video. And finally, veracity. Now pay attention to this one because it's a classic APM trap. Veracity deals with data quality and uncertainty. Think garbage in, garbage out. If your data quality is poor, your fancy predictive dashboards are confidently going to lead you right off a cliff.
So our anchor for this part, big data equals volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. It is the engine that enables real-time predictive performance management. But always keep in mind veracity. The actual quality of that data is almost always your biggest operational challenge.
Section 4. Finding true customer profitability. Traditional accounting loves to just celebrate revenue, right? But let's look at a quick story here. Customer A generates £100,000 in revenue. And after the cost of goods, order processing, delivery, and support, they leave us with a £20,000 profit. Awesome. Now customer B generates £80,000 in revenue. Still sounds pretty great. But Customer B places a ton of tiny orders, which means incredibly high order processing costs, they need more delivery drops, they demand heavy customer support. Once we actually allocate those specific costs, customer B results in a £3,000 loss. The big takeaway, high revenue absolutely does not guarantee high profit.
So, what exactly does the modern manager do when customer profitability analysis, or CPA, reveals an unprofitable customer? Well, you don't just immediately drop the client. No, you take strategic actions to fix the gap. You might increase their prices. You could change the service level by introducing a minimum order quantity. That cuts down on processing costs. Or you might encourage them to use a direct channel that simply operates at a lower cost to serve.
Here's your golden rule for CPA. It is revenue minus all customer-specific costs. The hard, unavoidable truth is that not all customers are profitable, and you have to measure it if you want to manage it.
Section 5. The cost of quality.
Let's see how this builds chronologically. The true cost of quality is broken down into 4 steps. Step 1 is prevention, and this occurs before production. We're talking about things like training and design reviews. Step 2 is appraisal, which happens during production through inspections and testing. Step 3 is internal failure. This is when you catch mistakes before shipment, which results in rework and scrap. And step 4 is external failure. This is the absolute worst-case scenario. It happens after shipment, causing warranty claims and destroying your reputation. The vital insight here? Investing early in step 1, prevention, massively reduces those devastating costs waiting for you in step 4. This brings us to a really punchy takeaway. Cost of quality spans prevention, appraisal, internal failure, and external failure. And as a golden rule to live by, preventing errors is always cheaper than fixing them later.
Section 6. Tracking projects with EVM.
Before we can truly decode Earned Value Management, or EVM, we need to quickly knock out these critical acronyms. PV is planned value. That's your budgeted spend for the work you scheduled. EV is earned value. This is the budgeted cost of the work you've actually performed, essentially the real value delivered. And AC is actual cost, which is exactly what you spent to do that work.
So the crucial point is this. Imagine a schedule variance calculation that spits out minus £10,000. That specific negative number isn't just some vague warning. It tells us definitively that the project is exactly £10,000 behind schedule based on the value we plan to earn versus what we actually managed to earn.
Let's tie this all together. EVM compares what we earned against our plans and our realities. First, we have the variances. Cost variances, earned value minus actual cost. If that result is positive, awesome, you are under budget. Schedule variances, earned value minus planned value. Positive result there means you're ahead of schedule. Next, we look at the indices for efficiency. We divide EV by AC for cost and EV by PV for schedule. For both of these indices, if you get a result greater than 1, you're operating efficiently. EVM literally strips away the guesswork and reveals the true health of your project.
And that really brings us full circle to this final provocative thought. Take a hard look at your own organization and ask, are your performance measures driving your actual strategy, or are they just driving dysfunctional behavior? From moving beyond traditional budgets to embracing big data, finding true customer profitability, understanding the real cost of quality, and tracking it all with precise EVM, advanced performance management, is ultimately about designing systems that genuinely create value. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this leaves you looking at your own metrics in a whole new light.